We have already had a look at how we can use Proxmox backup server to create backups of our VMs and Linux containers. And therefore I want to show you the restore process in this video. On the one hand, how we can restore complete containers and VMs, and on the other hand, how to perform a file level restore. And in order to demonstrate that, I've already opened the web interface of Proxmox VE and Proxmox backup server. And as you can see, when we switch to our data store and to the content section, we can see the backups that are available on our Proxmox backup server. So in that case, a backup of a Linux container and one of a virtual machine. We can also see the individual files that are part of the backup and can perform some basic actions like deleting backup or downloading individual files. But in general, what we want is to restore a complete container or VM or to restore individual files that are part of the guest operating system. So for example, the state of a specific file from 2 weeks ago that was present inside a Windows machine or a Linux machine. Yeah, and in order to demonstrate that, I will switch to Proxmox VE. And first of all, I will select the corresponding storage of our Proxmox backup server. Yeah, and here we can also see these two backups. And when I select one backup, I get these two buttons, Restore and File Restore. Let's start with the file restore. For a container, we can immediately see the root file system of the container. So a classical Linux file system tree. And for example, we can switch to the etc directory and select a specific configuration file. And then we can just download it here directly from the Proxmox VE web interface. So it's that easy to restore individual files from a container backup. Furthermore, if we select the directory, we get this download as option, which enables us to download the directory as a single file, for example as a .zip file. Yeah, and the file restore process is very similar for VMs too. So we also just select the corresponding backup and click on file restore. Then we can expand this path section, and in that case the first directory contains the root file system of the VM, so in that case also a Linux VM, and it is also possible that you can't expand all these directories here. So as you can see, we get the following error message, and it is not supported to mount these. But yeah, basically we want the root file system of our Linux VM, and just like before when doing a file restore that affected the container, we can just restore individual files or also directories, for example as a .zip file. Yeah, and of course it is also possible to restore complete containers or VMs. To start this process, I just need to click on the restore button to get the following dialog. So as we can see, the next available ID is chosen automatically. So by default my container with the ID 102 isn't overwritten and a new container is created. But of course it's also possible to delete this container just by clicking on it and selecting more and remove. I have to enter the ID of the container just as a confirmation, and then I can delete it just by clicking on remove. So now the container is gone, but of course I can select the corresponding backup and start the restore process. So now the next available ID is 102 again. We can also specify basic settings about the hardware like CPU cores or allocated RAM. Furthermore, it's possible to start the container after the restore, and we can also select the privilege level. The default option is from backup, so just like before, but that would also be a way to convert an unprivileged container to a privileged one, for example, or the other way around. But in general it's recommended to use unprivileged containers because then more security measures are in place, and we should only use privileged ones if we know about the security consequences and there's a real need for it. So in that case I will just keep from backup and start the restore process. And yeah, the restore started immediately. Yeah, and after a short wait, the restore has been completed. And as you can see, the container is also running again. And it has also been started without any issues. I could log in now and interact with the guest operating system. So that looks like a successful restore. So also when we use Proxmox backup server, the restore process is pretty straightforward here from within the Proxmox VE web interface. We just need to select the right storage, select the corresponding backup, and choose restore or file restore according to our needs. Yeah, and how does this restore dialog look for a VM? In the end, it's pretty much the same. Of course, we don't have these container specific options like the privilege settings, but it's possible to override the hardware settings if needed, to choose another storage, and to change the VM ID, or to start the VM after restore. But there's one further option that might be interesting, the live restore option. And this one can help us to reduce downtime. So for example, for a large backup, the restore can take some time. Then the VM needs to boot, the services need to start, so it can take some time until our services are available again. And if we use this live restore option, our VM is booted instantly. But yeah, like this note says, if something goes wrong during the restore process, new data written by the VM may be lost. So you should also keep that in mind. But if I click on the restore button, the restore process is started immediately and our VM is also started immediately. So as we can see, it's already booting, but the restore process is still running, as you can see here. You might experience slower boot time, but it should be faster than waiting for the whole restore process to complete. So as we can see here, the VM has already started. So maybe if we are running some important services, they're also already available again, and the restore process is still running. And of course we can keep an eye on the restore process, cause just like we have read in the note, if our VM is writing data now, maybe to a database or something, and something goes wrong during the restore process, that might cause unwanted consequences. Yeah, in that case, the restore has already been completed with success, and our Debian VM is running. And because of the live restore option, it was already running before the whole restore was completed. So that is also an option worth considering when using Proxmox backup server, if the downtime is really important. Yeah, let's just compare that with the integrated backup functionality of Proxmox VE. For that I will switch to the local storage. So as you can see, here are some backups that were created with the integrated backup functionality of Proxmox VE. For example, I can select this VM backup of the VM with the ID 100. And as you can see, there's also this restore option, but not the file restore option, for example. And if I open this dialog, the option of the live restore is also missing. So yeah, that might be something to keep in mind when choosing the backup solution for your VMs and containers. So which features do you need? What does the integrated functionality offer? And what are the benefits of Proxmox backup server? And live restore and file restore are two examples for that. So yeah, that depends on your personal requirements or the requirements of your organization. But to summarize, it's possible to perform the restore directly from the Proxmox VE web interface, which might be a different approach compared to other backup solutions, where you do that from the web interface or the graphical user interface of the backup application itself. But in the end, that also enables us to restore all of our backups from the same web interface. So the backups that were created with Proxmox backup server or via the integrated functionality. In the end, we just need to select the right storage, select the corresponding backup, and then we can start a file restore or a restore of a complete VM or container, just with a few clicks and also advanced options like the live restore. Yeah, that's it for the basic restore process, but of course we will take a look at further features of Proxmox Backup Server in the next videos.